Thursday, April 3rd, 10 a.m. Calling the Utilities Committee to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Casey.
Present.
Spencer.
Present.
Bishop. Gray. Harsh.
Here.
Kelly. Present. Polinsek. Mr. Chairman, Monaco.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Director, we were going to start with the EV. Is the Chief and Director Nichols?
Chief Julian has been joining us and he's been from office.
Right. All right. Nope, we're good. Ordinance number 1329-2024, as amended by Council Members Casey, Bishop, and Griffin. Emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works on behalf of the Office of Sustainability to employ one or more professional consultants to manage the use of city-owned electrical vehicle charging stations or electrical vehicle service equipment, and to charge fees relating to the charging stations and equipment. Let me read the amendment. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in the title at the end, strike the period and insert the following, quote, semicolon, and authorizing the director to enter into various written standard purchases and requirement contracts needed for materials, equipment, supplies, and services needed to maintain the station, including labor when necessary for the Department of Public Works. 2, renumber existing sections 3, 4, and 5 to the new, quote, section 5, section 3, and section 4, and put them numerically. 3, insert new sections 6, 7, and 8 to read as follows. Section 6, that the Director of Public Works, on behalf of the Office of Sustainability, is authorized to make one or more written standard purchase contracts and written requirement contracts under the Charter and Codified Ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976. The period of requirements to be determined by the Director for the necessary items of materials, equipment, supplies, and services needed to maintain the stations, including labor when necessary, to be purchased by the Commissioner of Purchase and Supplies on a unit basis for the Department of Public Works on behalf of the Office of Sustainability. Bids shall be taken in a manner that permits an award to be made for all items as a single contract or by separate contract for each and any combination of the items that the Board of Control determines. Section 7, the under Section 108B of the Charter, the purchases and/or services authorized by the ordinance may be made through cooperative agreements with other governmental agencies. The Director of Public Works, on behalf of the Office of Sustainability, may sign all documents that are necessary to make the purchases and/or obtain such services, and may enter into one or more contracts with the vendors and/or consultants selected through the cooperative process. Section 8, that the cost of the requirement contract or contracts shall be charged against Fund Number 10 SF 980, and the Director of Finance shall certify the amount of any purchases under the contracts, each of which purchase shall be made on order of the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies by a delivery order issued against the contract or contracts and certified by the Director of Finance. Number 4, in existing Section 6, line 1, after, quote, professional services, insert, quote, and/or standard, and at the end insert, quote, RQS 0137, comma, RLA 2024-130. 5, renumber existing sections 6 and 7 to new sections 9 and section 10. This must be a sustainability piece of legislation because we should have just thrown the original one out. We should have tabled it and redid a whole new piece of legislation. But Chief, welcome to the table. You can introduce your guests and tell us about 1329-2024.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you had to read the amendment and not me. Appreciate that.
That's a whole new piece of legislation. It's not an amendment.
So you have heard the majority of this legislation before, and if you'd like, I can kind of go over very quickly what this legislation was originally for and what we're trying to add. This is for 4 EV charging stations that are either located, currently installed, or will be installed. These are the 4 locations: Canal Basin. Those are already installed but are not are not usable at this time, not activated. We have charging stations at Frederick Douglass Center, at our rec center, already installed, that are being utilized, but we're not charging for charging at those locations. And then NOACA has a project within their area that we are receiving two locations, Willard Garage and Westside Market, where the NOACA will be installing those units. And this legislation is to allow the units to be activated so that we can charge for the charging, and that it also includes the maintenance and operations of those units. The amendment is to, the money will go to a quote-unquote enterprise fund, basically. Any surplus money that we have, we would utilize in the future to either build new, or if there's some type of catastrophic damage to one of the charging stations that's not covered under the operations or maintenance, that we could replace it. So that's the purpose of the amendment, that we have the ability to procure additional charging stations in the future.
So Chief, are you looking to establish a new enterprise fund with this legislation?
It will be a separate account. I don't know if it will be classified as a enterprise fund or if it's just a separate account where the money goes into.
All right, so we're not setting up an enterprise fund. We're just setting up a separate account that the profits that the city will make from the EV charging stations will remain in this account, in the general fund, though.
Yes.
If we set it up and we'll just say everybody's charging their things and we make $1 million, right? This fund is set up specifically for EV. It's not like it could be taken for the use of something else. If there's Parks and Recs wants, I don't know, $500,000 to replace a roof, we can't dip into this account. This is specifically for EV.
To the chair, the intent is to utilize the money that we have to stay with EV charging stations.
Chief, I understand intent.
Yeah.
But we're not always going to be here,
Yeah.
right? It's not always going to be us at the table. So I understand the intent is to keep it there, but it technically could be used for something else because it's just going into an account in the general fund.
Chief, if you may, can I
Yeah,
ask a question?
yeah.
To the council chair.
Tell us who you are
Yeah,
and your
speak
title.
slowly.
Sure, of course.
I mean, we know who you are, but this is for the listening
Yeah,
public.
for sure. Good morning, everyone. Anand Natarajan, Acting Director, Mayor's Office of Sustainability. Just want to clarify what the Chief provided about the funding to the Council Chair. The fund is called a Special Revenue Fund. It's not necessarily an enterprise fund, but it allows to be able to fund it. And again, in this case, we will keep it specific to the electric vehicles, and we'll work with finance very diligently on the use and the source and use. Yeah.
Okay.
It's called a Special Revenue Fund. I just want to clarify that. It's called.
All right. And this special revenue fund is staying with the Office of Sustainability, or is it going under Parks and Rec? Is it going under Public Works?
Go ahead.
To the chair, the fund is set up by finance under a department just for the sake of being able to manage that. But if sustainability manages that, or the Park and Rec, any department, we all have access with finance to be able to utilize it for appropriated projects. So in this case, with electric vehicles, we'll ensure that it is appropriated only for electric vehicles.
So it's not
Yeah.
being set up under any specific department?
Normally to the chair, the finance usually sets it up under a home department, but the home department works with other departments in order to ensure this fund.
All right. And then in this case, who's the home department?
Would be the Department of Public Works.
Okay. So this is being set up under public, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
So it is under the Department of Public Works.
Yes.
Now, just to reiterate, Canal Basin, two charging stations
Yep.
already installed, not activated. One at Frederick Douglass Rec Center that is installed. It is activated, but we're not charging anybody for the use of that yet. And then we've got one going into the Willard Garage and one going into the West Side Market that is being paid for or donated or however by NOACA at no cost to the city, correct?
That's
And-
correct.
And they're installing them at their cost.
That's correct.
Okay, so is any of these 2, 3, 4, 5 that are going in at any cost to the city?
Future cost? No. No, future cost.
Have we already paid anything
Yes.
installing? What have we
Yes,
paid
so for the
to?
canal basin, that was, capital funding was utilized for the installation of
And
canal basin.
do you know how much that was?
Through the chief to the chair, because it was part of a larger public project, we had provided the answer. It was estimated about $5,000, including some electrical work and a charging station.
And then, do we know the investment that NOACA's making into putting these other two in?
It's part of a larger, much larger project, so I can get those costs to you.
Okay. All right. Councilman Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues. We make things too difficult around here. Utilities, if there's one, let's say, installed at the Nottingham Water Plant, it would be in a department, the Division of Water, a line item in the budget for maintenance, be a part of the maintenance, upkeep, whatever. And then under the income, it would be another line item. And you would do that by every department and every division. I don't know why we make things so complicated around here. Because the question I'm going to ask is that you have 5 sites. You have other facilities that are owned by the city of Cleveland. You have other facilities that are owned by Cleveland Public Power, Division of Water, Water Pollution Control. You could install more of these across the city, and so I don't understand what the game plan is here. I'm not clear why just 5 sites, in light of the fact that we have all these other city facilities, which, especially if it's an enterprise account, they can install it, they would collect the revenue from it. Why are we making things difficult here?
Chief?
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, you're absolutely right, and that's our intent, is to install more. But it would be through this program, that the revenues that we generate through, that are generated through the 4 locations, those will grow, and we could utilize those to install more sites. So you're absolutely right.
But again, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, to the chief, you could do that right now. You could install them. You could have the water department install them on the water plant properties. You have Clean Public Power facilities. You could install them at other facilities. And see, in my opinion, if they install it, then the revenue would come back to them, and that's the way you get more charging stations in the city. I don't get it. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to belabor the point. Again, I think we just make things so difficult around here to get stuff done. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll let you push the issue or try to get some clarity here.
Thank you. Director, do you have anything to add?
Just briefly, Chairman, to the council members. So within the Department of Public Utilities, we do have legislative authority to expand our electric fleet, and we do have the ability to install charging stations. Recently, the state fire code, based on the national fire code, has been released that told us where we could build them. So it's been
Okay.
on hold temporarily. As to public charging or charging for that, a lot of our facilities are protected, right? So it is sensitive infrastructure
Yeah.
where we wouldn't necessarily allow for people to come into Nottingham Water Treatment Plant
All right.
to pay $8 to charge their sweet car. But we are looking at doing that for our customer facing. We do have customer lobbies. We do have public parking, angled parking at 1201. So something, as the chief just said, this is a step, right? We're now providing a benefit to those who own electric vehicles. When it becomes more of a, how do you pay for it? How much are we charging? A utility where we're selling the power, then it is the intention, or at least the discussion for that to evolve into a utility, Department of Public Utilities function.
And if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
through the chair to the council person, we are looking to expand that. We did an RFP probably close to 2 years ago now, where we tried to get a company to come in and place charging stations within our right-of-way throughout the city. We were unsuccessful in negotiating that contract with the highest scoring vendor. So we're trying to do what you're asking, and we're trying to invest some capital and grow the EV charging stations throughout the city.
Well, the proof will be in the pudding. I'm not going to hold my breath that we'll see them in all the rec centers or at other city facilities. So again, it is what it is. I'm quoting a former mayor. It is what it is, okay? And we'll see how it goes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Harsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's not lost on me that kind of what we're talking about here is the future of the gas station, right? More and more vehicles are going to turn into electric vehicles, and we're going to have to figure out how to charge them more and more for the rest of our lives. And it seems like an incredible opportunity for us, instead of having Shell and BP and Marathon, if we had a station that said Cleveland Public Power, and it was outside the library, and another one that said Cleveland Public Power, and it was outside the rec center, another one that said Cleveland Public Power, and it was at the school, where you're volunteering your time to help kids after school, right? You plug your car in. And we have our own municipal utility that can sell electricity. We have legal authority to sell electricity. And we can sell it direct to the consumer at a lower price than, I would think, a third party that comes in and gets involved in the process and has to take their profit off the top. So I think if we're being obtuse, it's because this is there's going to be 40 or 400 or 4,000 of these before we die. This is like the beginning of,
The end.
I mean, people will use their homes and mostly try to plug in at home, but there will always be travelers and people going here and there, and people will always look for the opportunity to charge up a car when they can. And this is going to, slowly but surely replace the gas station over time. So I guess my questions are, through the chair to the director, or whoever wants to answer, how do we control costs for the third party? How do we control their expenses?
Chief,
Can you answer that?
Yeah, through the chair to the
talking to the mic.
yeah, through the chair to the council person. We'd also provided one slide where we will be ensuring that we are able to charge for the use of the charging station at a fee that is set, that is in conjunction with what our base expenses are, at least to be able to recover our expenses. And so considering the cost of electricity, the operation cost, the maintenance cost, and how much we would need in order to have some future maintenance, we would be working with the vendor in order to set what the appropriate charging fee is.
So through the
Yeah.
chair, if we're paying for the electricity, we're paying for the operation, and we're paying for the maintenance, what is the third party doing?
To the chair, just to the council person, all the money would go first to the vendor. And so the vendor will be collecting the money first, and then they would then be distributing what is remaining after their profit back to the city so that we can then reconcile our expenses.
So, but through the chair, what are they actually, what value are they adding to this transaction if we pay for the electricity, we pay for the operation, and we pay for the maintenance?
Hold on, for a point of clarity.
Yeah.
There's no third-party vendor in here, correct? I
Yes.
mean, go ahead.
To the chair, yes, this is, for a third-party vendor to do the administration. We're not paying for the electricity, the vendor is paying for the electricity. So basically, if you go to charge your vehicle, you pay so much money.
Right.
That money goes to the vendor.
Right.
The vendor pays for the electric, they pay for operating and maintenance of the charging station.
So these expenses here in red on the display are their
Theirs.
expenses.
That's correct.
This is what they take out for, and then we get what's left over.
That's correct.
Through the chair, what prevents them from that expenses being 100% of revenue?
To the chair,
What prevents expenses from being 100% of revenue?
so through the chair to the council person, that's where we come in to make sure that we are, we are charging what is first, considered equitable in the neighborhood, because we're also providing rates that are equitable in each neighborhood. For instance, if there is a premium in downtown, the rates would be higher.
So I can
And
just
then
go to
if
a
it's
different neighborhood and get cheaper electricity?
To the chair, to the council person, it also depends because on what others are providing. So we have to be somewhat cost competitive. At the same time, at a minimum, we'll ensure that the expenses are met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would add, whenever we have a third-party vendor, our internal audit gets involved too, and they do periodic audits of the
Yeah.
expenses that they have.
I guess, Mr. Chair, what's so confusing about this to me is that we already have a first-party vendor. We have CPP. They, they transport electricity, they provide electricity, they bill people for electricity. Their specialty is electricity. I don't understand why we're doing this. Like, I get that NOACA is giving us free stuff, and we don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. So, yes, thank you, NOACA. Let's figure out how to get your free stuff here, and let's figure out how to do this. But like, I guess I don't understand the role of the third party. Like, they're just raising prices and skimming off the top.
I understand that, but, you know, if we do it that way, without a third party, that means a quarter of the city wouldn't be able to benefit from this program for us, right? Because we can't control First Energy. So if we ran it all ourselves and we had a charging station at West 150th in Lorraine where CPP does not provide power, then what?
Are any of these locations in non-CPP?
They're all CPP. These ones here
Yeah,
are
at this-
CPP specific.
At this time, but
Yeah.
as you know, CPP doesn't cover the whole cities, and we would be looking to provide EV charging stations throughout the whole city.
Director joined us again at the table. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Through the chairman to the council member, we couldn't agree more, right? That ultimately, as this expands, this will be a business. At this point, the cost of the chargers, the specific unique skills to maintain those chargers, what we're offering here to residents of the city of Cleveland or visitors is the service, right? It's not currently, that's certainly where this is going to go as CPP develops. And to the chairman's point, no, we might not have distribution lines on West 150th and Lorraine, but the city of Cleveland controls the right of way. So there are evolving technologies where you can put it on a pole if you're parking on West 147th and Triscuit, and you're in a spot and you put your little credit card in, a thing comes down and you put your card. Like this is ever evolving into a business. CPP currently, as it stands today, does not have the funding capability. Our customer's dollar can't support this transition into owning and maintaining EV charging stations within the right-of-way in the city of Cleveland where it pays them back.
Well, with all due respect, through the chair, wouldn't the same amount of money be necessary to run these by CPP as they would be to run these by the third party? I mean, we can figure out the expenses. Like, how are they able to run it and we're not?
Through the chairman to the council member, my understanding is the stations themselves are primarily grant funded. There's grant opportunities throughout the federal government, the state government that have been compiled to buy the actual stations. And what we are, I think, on
And third- and third
acting
parties got the
director
grant? And
is
third party-
managing this because we bought it with grant dollars, but if it breaks and somebody's trying to plug in and it doesn't work, right, we don't have the bandwidth to fix it. And again, it's a pilot service to these residents and visitors.
Ostensibly, if it's a grant, neither would they.
To the chair, to the council person, yes, 3 out of the 4 stations are being purchased by grant dollars. These are on an ongoing basis in terms of the cost that is being charged for the use of the service, for services. So 3 out of the 4 stations are or were paid by grant dollars. The only one that was done through the city's capital budget on the general funds was the Kennebec Basin.
Which is installed but not activated.
Correct.
Okay. So it seems like there's money to be made in this, so there wouldn't be a third party involved. Third parties don't get involved unless there's money to be made, right? Government runs stuff that people can't make money off of, and everything else is run by private. So we've got this private investment looking to make money off NOACA grants and some work that's already been done. And I guess what's, rubbing me the wrong way is that it seems like we're sidestepping the opportunity to provide this service directly to residents as a utility service with a fee, which we do all the time anyway, but we're sidestepping it here because the equipment is new and we're not quite comfortable with maintaining the equipment. So we're going to let this company maintain the equipment, and for whatever profit pays all of their people. They're going to make enough money off this. I mean, I know it's not just these four. I'm sure they have these bundled with other charging stations, and this is what they do. But they're going to make their money, and they're going to pay their people. I feel like we could be doing the exact same thing and using this money to pay our people, you know, CPP employees, instead of paying private company. I don't. What is the name of the company? I'm sorry, we should ask that, but through the chair. What is the name of the company that's going to run this?
Through the chair to the council person, we have ChargePoint as one of the primary vendors.
ChargePoint.
ChargePoint, yes.
And ChargePoint operates in how many cities or states or provinces, if they're going to be states one day?
Through the chair to the council person, they are nationwide. They are, the premier level 2, what is called as level 2 charging station vendors. So they're the number one in the nation.
So
ChargePoint.
they're in all 50 states?
They are all 50 states.
So ChargePoint is a national company?
National.
And we're given a foothold here in Cleveland?
Not necessarily council person to the chair. They've already been here in the state of Ohio. They have a presence in Columbus. Cincinnati,
Through the chair, does
Columbus.
ChargePoint have charging locations in the city of Cleveland?
Yes. To
Okay,
the chair,
through the chair, where are they?
Where
are they? Yeah.
And so there are at least one in the Midtown area that was connected. There is also one on the west side. There was one in the garage installed in downtown parking lot, surface parking lot. There are also a map, if I can, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, hit me. I love maps.
It's not just ChargePoint, but there are other locations too.
Privately.
Trying to see if there's
Like at gas stations?
maybe there is. This is not a minimum.
Yeah, I don't see
So there are a number of locations to the chair to the council person that have been located. One is in PNC Garage.
PNC,
yeah,
the
PNC
bank garage? Okay.
Yes. And then there is one in Tower City. And again, it's not just ChargePoint. There are many vendors coming to the table now and being able to install. So we have a variety of choice. Yeah.
Okay. Couple other questions.
Can I jump in real quick? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
please.
Through the chair to the councilman, I just wanted to say that there are other municipalities who work with ChargePoint and have used this grant funding to install charging stations. Shaker Heights is one of them. They have 3 charging stations. The one located at the ice rink is probably the most heavily used in the city. Doesn't cost the city of Shaker Heights any money. And so a lot of other municipalities are working with ChargePoint.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I know you just told me I'm over, but I just have 2 quick questions I want to get out of the way. In Section 4, said fee shall be deposited in a fund number 10 SF 980. That was quote unquote the account that we were talking about earlier.
That's correct.
Through the chair, why not just put it into the general fund?
Again, we want to make sure that any revenues that are generated stay in the EV charging world, so that if we do want to invest in more capital and build more stations, we could use that money that's in that fund.
Okay, but through the chair, can't we just keep a count of how much money goes into the general fund from this endeavor? I mean, somebody's going to have to be the bean counter, right? Somebody has to have the spreadsheet that says how much money. We would know the number,
Yeah.
whether it was in the general fund or in a special fund.
Technically, this is the way finance wanted to set it up, with a separate account.
Okay, and then through the chair, who has spending authority for that account?
That it would be the director of Public Works.
The director of public works would have access to the special account. And does it say in here, and I apologize if it does, how they're allowed to spend that money or restrictions on how they spend that money?
It is written in the amendment.
In the amendments?
And then it's ultimately approved through the Board of Control.
Right. So through the chair, this money could ostensibly be spent on other things if the Board of Control approves.
As it's written in the amendment. You have my copy.
There's nothing that prevents this money from being spent on things other than the maintenance or administration of this
It's
charging project.
It's specifically stated in there what the intent to spend the money is in the amendment.
Necessary items, material, equipment, supplies, and services needed to maintain the stations, including labor and necessary, on behalf of the office. Okay. One last question. Is there a not-to-exceed clause in here where we sort of put a cap on how much can be spent on this? I guess what I'm afraid of is reverse money flow. I'm actually afraid that like they would come to us and say, sorry, we're losing money on these. We need you to invest because we don't have the money to fix this. You know, some punk cuts a line, right, runs it over, damages the machine. They can't operate it. They say, sorry, it's only been in operation for 3 weeks. We haven't made the money. We need you guys to fix this. Where's the
Yeah,
safety
there's
for us?
terms in the contract as far as what they're responsible for replacement and maintenance of any of the stations.
could you
So
point
that would,
that-
no, it's not in the amendment, it would be in the direct contract with the vendor.
Which is not something that's going to come in front of us. That'll be the Board of Controls.
That's correct.
Right. Mr. Chair, it feels like I don't know. It feels like this is sort of like hodgepodge together, like we're sort of doing a patchwork sort of to like answer here. And I think I can envision a future where we have CPP charging stations set up throughout the city at publicly owned facilities where people are able to charge their cars at libraries and schools and hospitals and rec centers, and it becomes a draw for people to be at those places, something that we also like to encourage. And I don't have great hopes for this, but I mean, I guess far be it from me to stand in the way of progress.
Through
just
the chair to the council.
Yeah.
And I would look at this similar to when we have a parking lot. Some parking lots we operate ourselves, and some parking lots we hire a company to operate for us because they're responsible for the equipment. So it wouldn't be any different than that. You know, this is a good, because we're not familiar with the technology, with the equipment.
Yeah.
It would be a burden to have our staff be responsible
Yeah.
for any of the maintenance. But it's not something that, as we look towards the future, that you know, that could be the possibility that we do start operating these.
No, it's a good parallel, Mr. Chair. We recently handed over the operation of the West Side Market, and now parking at the West Side Market's free because they can't figure out how to operate a parking lot. So maybe we'll just get free electricity for everybody, and that'd be a win for the city.
Well, we're doing it in Frederick Douglass right now.
All done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chief, when are they anticipating installing at the West Side Market and Willard Garage?
Through the chair to the chair, we are expecting to install it this year, 2025.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're in April, so what is this year? Is it May or is it December?
I would want to be saying later in about May. May is when we will start. There is some design work and permits in place. We are continuing to work with NOACA to ensure that we have the money and be able to start the process.
Do you
of
already have
installation.
the permits?
Yes, to the chair, the permits have been pulled by the installer, correct.
I don't think that the council is comfortable with this yet. That's why I asked, right? So is this going to be an install? So you already have permits pulled, correct? You already have a vendor chosen, correct? This didn't have to go out to RFP?
Through the chair
bid.
to the council. This was all selected by NOACA as being the granting agency. So they provided the vendor. They also came in and looked at the site locations. We are working through the final details, but hopefully we can get it all resolved and
Okay,
hope it's
so
installed this year.
you just said NOACA chose the vendor, right?
Correct.
So go back to your thing. Who's the vendor? Who's,
He meant the vendor for construction.
Vendor for construction.
For
yes, to the chair.
construction.
Yes.
all right,
contractor.
so who chose ChargePoint?
Through the chair to the council person, ChargePoint was one of the examples of the 2 charging stations that we chose, the city chose for Canal Basin and the Frederick Douglass
Okay.
Center.
So ChargePoint, you've already selected ChargePoint, correct?
To the chair, yes,
Okay.
for 2 of the stations.
And did you need authority to do that?
Through the chair to the council person, we had prior authority to grants for the Ohio EPA grant for the Frederick Douglass, and the other one was installed through the capital projects, which required, authority, the traditional capital bonding authority.
Chief, I'm going to hold this until, I don't care, all right? If there's questions that need to be answered, and I know we met on this, I
Yeah.
know we had a big meeting on this, but other things I think have come to light today. specifically, and I know that at least 2 council members are not comfortable with this right now. It'll be at the next hearing, the next utilities hearing. But I think there's some other questions that need to be answered before we pass this. And I apologize because I thought we were ready to go, but we'll have to have some discussions offline.
Mr. Chairman, just a
regards-
point. Mr. Chairman, just a point. Did it go before Border Control?
Through the chair to the council person, the 2 installs that were already done were part of the regular process. One for the installation at the canal basin that was done through the capital bond. So yes, if it would have gone to the Board of Control, it's been a few years. The one installed at the Frederick Douglass station is already installed through the grant that was approved, and it was less than 50,000, and so we didn't have to go to the Board of Control. We didn't have to go for that one. The other 2 are grant funding, and we didn't have to go to Board of Control yet, because that's what we're working through in order to understand what the rate structure would be once NOACA provides this for us. So,
When will you figure out when the rate's going to be?
to the chair, that's why we're here in front of you, to get the ordinance authority, so that then we can go on next steps and be able to set the rates for these charging stations. So if this is held, we would have to wait for it to be approved before we go to Board of Control.
Yeah, but if I pass this today, this is the last time that the council's going to be touching this piece of legislation. Go ahead.
Will this piece come back to finance?
It'll have to go to finance.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Happy to answer.
Even if I have to hold a special meeting, we'll get it done soon, very soon.
Okay.
But I think there's too many outstanding questions that I'm getting even not through the table, in regards that we want to make sure that it's clear and that everything is, everybody feels comfortable with this, especially with the third-party vendor. Doesn't have to come back. We'll have a conversation. All right?
Thank you.
Sorry, Chief. 13/29/2024 is being held. (230/2025) by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Utilities to exercise the first option to renew contract number RC 2023-075 with Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP for inspection, testing, and service of proprietary fire protections, line safety systems, and replacement parts for the various divisions of the Department of Public Utilities. Director, this is proprietary for their own equipment?
No, Chairman, this went out to bid. It's under
Oh.
the state term contract. This
Oh,
is the
that's right.
first,
All
but
right. some
some of our fires, it's not all of the things we do through the chairman to the committee isn't proprietary to Johnson Control. Statewide contracts under the state term are for these fire suppression, life safety measures throughout the state that we take advantage of because that fixes the per unit cost. So therefore, we have a better understanding of what we're getting into. This is the first option to renew, one-year renewal, so we can continue code compliant inspection and repair program and make enhancements and upgrades to building fire protection and life safety systems.
Any questions on 230/2025? Seeing none, 230/2025 stands approved. Ordinance number 293/2025 by council members Casey and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of materials, equipment, supplies, and services needed to repair, replace, and maintain the high-voltage static transmission pipe-type cable system components and for emergency oil spill cleanup, including labor and installation, if necessary, for the Division of Cleveland Public Power, Department of Public Utilities, for a period of 2 years with 2 one-year options to renew, for which is exercisable through additional legislative authority. Director, we're already using these, right? We're already contracted with them?
We are under contract with a firm currently to maintain the 138 kV pipe-type cable system for Cleveland Public Power. It does expire in November of this year. We do go out to bid every couple of years. It is a very specialized service that either maintains, inspects, and in the event of a break of it, it is underground, it is high voltage, it is filled with oil, so there's a special way to detect, find where the break is, and then fix it. So there's very few vendors who do it in the region. W.H. Chester has been on board with Cleveland Public Power for a number of years. And anticipating the question, this is annually $1 million that we budget. In the last 2-year cycle, we spent $700,000 primarily for inspection and maintenance.
All right. You're happy with their service?
Yes, Chairman.
Any questions on cleaning up oil under the ground when it, 290?
Maintaining
For
our
maintain, for
underground
ma-
pipe
for-
type cable system.
For maintaining the
Chairman.
pipes, not wanting to clean up an oil spill that may happen.
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering why nobody was here from Cleveland Public Power.
The commissioner was on it. He had a conflict, and because it's the 138 kV go out to bid, it's very straightforward.
'Cause-
But the commissioner was going to be here, but he had a conflict that I had told him to
Okay,
cover.
because Mr. Chairman, I attended the meeting last night at Collinwood Homeowners and Tenants Association, and in the course of a meeting, 2 residents got up and presented me a shopping bag, like when you go to the store, the plastic bag, and it was full of insulation, and from Saranac Road, just by Ginn Academy, and they said this is all insulation all off the wires, and when it rains and when the winds, there's all this sparking and the power goes off, et cetera, et cetera. So I've received a lot of presents at a lot of meetings over the years, but not a bag of insulation from wires. So I wanted to make
That'd
sure.
be interesting to see. But
Yeah,
we
I've
will
got it in
take-
my car. I'm going to give you the
Okay.
present.
Appreciate
I
it.
should have brought it up here today to
Give him
present it
That'd
to
be a
you.
good, yeah.
Right.
Cheapskate
Right.
regifting.
Right, give him a present, but I need to get somebody to look at that. I'll do you an email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on 293, 2025? Seeing none, 293, 2025 stands approved. Finally, ordinance number 294, 2025 by Councilmembers Casey and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more requirement contracts of labor and/or materials necessary to maintain, test, evaluate, repair, or replace roofs and appurtenances, including but not limited to roofing systems for the various divisions of the Department of Public Utilities for a period of 2 years. Director?
Thank you, Chairman. It's good to have a requirements contract for roofing when you have the number of buildings, the age of the buildings spread out, the importance of the buildings. So we do have a roofing contractor that we let under this ordinance, under this authority. The current contract expires in May. We didn't use it as much under the last 2 years, which is good for the emergency response, the maintenance, the inspection. But it is something historically the Department of Public Utilities has taken full advantage of, the roofing and appurtenances contract, and requesting authority to go out and seek a continuation of the resource.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Councilman Polensek?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the legislation, but I just want to add another issue here. I received an email from Morrison Products on South Waterloo Road, which is a major employer in our community, and they are complaining very vocally about the substation immediately, CPP substation immediately to the east of their parking lot. I took the commissioner out there myself to look at this place. It looks like an abandoned and derelict building, and they have customers coming in from all over the country to visit their plant, and they just indicated in the email, and I did send it out. I don't know if I sent you a copy, Director,
not, but-
about how embarrassing this facility is. So I got to get somebody, I got to get assurances. Now, I met the commissioner out there last year. You got to go look, this place is an embarrassment, what this substation looks like. The front door's ready to fall off the building. It looks like an abandoned, derelict building.
It is
And
secure, Chairman, to the council member. It doesn't look pretty, but the
Pretty? You're being
aesthetics-
polite.
Well, it doesn't look good, but
Yeah.
the aesthetics serve no purpose in serving our customers. So
Okay.
it falls on the priority list, unfortunately, when the transmission and reliable services
Yeah.
that we provide. However, we do have a contract for foliage and the paint, so we are looking at those now that the weather has broken, and we will take a particular attention
Okay.
to South Waterloo.
Now, I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, because it is embarrassing to point to, and I'm hoping it's going to get addressed like this spring and summer. Thank you,
That is
Mr.
our
Chairman.
intention.
Any other questions on 294? Seeing none, 294 stands approved. Please sign up. Thank you very much, Director. Until Utilities Committee is adjourned until the call of the chair.
Stacey Steggert is from Ward 8, and Stacey Steggert is here to talk about the mayor should encourage CMSD not to reduce instruction